was, and this is a true story, I was in a bar in Hollywood and sitting next to a drunken Dutchman, and we were talking Dutch. I happened to be a draft dodger and had spent some time in Holland as well. I won't tell you everything tonight. I'll skip some of the anecdotes, the side anecdotes. And you know, I'm a writer, and he says he's a publisher. And I said, well, you know, would you like to see the manuscript? And so we met the following day. He said, I'm going to publish this book. I said, okay. And he's this, you know, drunken Dutchman with red face. And okay, you know, after 15 years, I'll go with anybody. I don't care who it is, you know. I meet you at a bar in Hollywood, fine. You're the publisher? Okay, let's go with that. And he actually did get the book published. A very long story. I'm not advising you to go to a bar in Hollywood to look for a publisher. I'm just advising you that it could take 15 years to find a publisher. And now that book, the What is God book, is in its 17th edition with almost 300,000 sold. So all of those people were incorrect, and this drunken guy in a bar was right, you see? So it's so ludicrous how arbitrary the process really is. And once you get into understanding the publishing business, you know, the six sisters, as they're called in New York City, the six big publishers, and all the medium-sized publishers, you realize nobody knows what the hell they're doing. You know, it's just guesswork. You really don't know. You know, you hope you get a John Grisham or, you know, any of these Daniel Steeles or people like that, but it's not certain. So do you put your money as a publishing house on that person's book? And by the way, even if you do get your book published, I was reading this in the Wall Street Journal, what happens, okay, you got the book published, great. You signed the deal, you got a little bit of an advance. Now, the book's not selling. It is the greatest book in the world, of course, we know this, you know, and everybody must read this book. We're all convinced of this, but the public, for one reason or another, is not buying this book. Guess what happens? You don't get a second chance. Why would that publisher want to publish your second book? Makes no sense. Your first book didn't do well. So what are these poor writers who are stuck on the, you know, on the wheel like the hamster, what do? They change their name, they change their gender, and they resubmit. That's how desperate it gets, okay? This is the system as it is. Now, the good news is that we are living in a world that's working in two ways. If you know, I'm sure you all study geopolitics, but there's this conglomeratization going on, the globalization, big companies becoming bigger, you know, colluding with our governments and so on. So you see that trend happening, that ominous, insidious, pernicious trend happening. And then at the same time, you see a deconstruction happening, a fragmentation happening through the information that we're getting through the internet. And so there's a breakup, as you saw with the, for instance, I was going to say the Soviet Union, but with the record industry, right? You see the record industry has fallen apart as it's become easier and easier to produce your music and sell it online. You don't need a record company anymore. And the same thing is happening in the publishing business. While there is this conglomeratization going on, there is this fragmentation going on at the same time, because now I could pick up the phone and I could call China, in fact, you know, and it costs me 8 cents, or if you've got Skype, it costs you a penny, right, to call the printer in China and to start printing and get that book over here, and then I can work through my distribution systems or the larger distribution systems. I can do this myself. I'm an intelligent American male, you know, with a phone and a computer, basically, and an internet. So the fragmentation is a good thing because it gives the small people, remember that phrase? Mr. Svanberg's phrase, the president of BP, he said he was going to take care of the small people. So it gives the small people, you know, venues to express themselves, whether you're a music producer, you're a musician, or you're an author, a writer. So I digress from digressions, but I put this up here just in the part of the why we do this, why I write this book, how important this book really is. Once I have that, so I put up the 3 P's. The passion, of course, is a strong feeling, emotion. Although I looked up the word passion, it's a Latin word, patori passi. It comes from, it really means suffering. So when we talk about the passion of Christ, you know, we're talking about the suffering of Christ, really, is what we're talking about. But passion, as it's come to be used as a strong emotion, that's the why part that I'm talking about. That you must have this strong, yeah, I got to do this. I don't care if my wife leaves me because I put her on the credit card. You know, whatever it is, okay? I must do this. I've got this passion for this story that needs to be told, and now I'm going to give myself the permission to go for it, okay? Whatever that takes. This is the hard part for most of us, is to give ourselves a permission to do this thing that we really, really feel strongly about, you know? We just go back to our inertia and into our daily world. And then, of course, is the persistence part, that you must persist. There's no way that you're going to get through any of this. There was this phrase that I like from Silicon Valley, where, you know, these 21-year-old multimillionaires, how do they get to be 21-year-old multimillionaires? They work 100 hours a week. And they say, if you work 100 hours a week, okay, that shows sincerity, but if you work 150 hours a week, that shows commitment. All right? So that's what I'm talking about, persistence. I'm not telling you should work 100 hours a week or 150 hours a week, but you're going to have to find some kind of diligence and do this thing. Okay? You can't just give up. You know, if it takes you 15 years, 100 rejection letters, or how many rejection letters, that's not important. That is really not important. These people are morons. Excuse my Bronx, but, you know, they were wrong, these people. The experts, in fact, we find are wrong a lot of the times. You see the BP spill. These are experts working on our behalf. You see the government giving away money to whom? You know, the experts. So I'm saying, you know what I'm saying. I don't want to get off on that track, really. So what happened was this crazy Dutchman, he then sold the rights to my book without telling me. It's another little story. To a Canadian publisher called Firefly Books. And they have done a very good job for me. And then I managed through threats and different ways to get them to pay me a royalty that I split with this guy. Publishing is a venal, nasty. Anytime there's money, you're going to have venality, you know? And the publishing, U.S. publishing business, you should know, is $26 billion a year business, okay? Video games are very close to that. They're about $22 billion. But U.S. publishing is a big business, a lot of money to be made in publishing. And if you're doing children's books, believe it or not, are the largest segment of the pie. They're about 25% of the pie. And they're exponentially one of the few sectors that keeps rising, more than nonfiction, adult fiction, textbooks, etc. This is Firefly's catalog. This is 2001. So they did quite well for me. And then once you get going here, after the first this is, they'll do a spring and a fall catalog. See, your publisher will do that. And then they'll give you a full page, okay, the first time around. And then you get backlisted. Now, you're just like a little postage. I don't know if you can see that. You're like a little postage stamp size. Okay. So you better hope that the book keeps selling when it's backlisted, all right? And so how will you sell? You know, I mean, even if you're published, then and you're not Hillary Clinton or you're not Colin Powell, right? Or Dick Cheney, because we're going to hear about his story soon, his heart attacks. How are you going to then keep book sales going so that they will, you know, well, that's the publisher's job, isn't it? No, it's not. You know, they'll give you 30 or 60 days, their PR department, because they've got a schedule. They're bringing out 80 books that year. So you're just on the conveyor belt, and they'll do what they can. Maybe they'll get you a show in Columbus, Ohio. Okay? Nice city. I'm not being derogatory about that. But, you know, it's not a major market, is what I'm saying. You may not get to New York, Chicago, and New York. I'm sorry, Los Angeles, Chicago, New York. You may not get to a major market, even with the help of your publisher. So this is a mantra that I speak about. The author sells the books. The author sells the books. Publisher does not sell the books. Barnes & Noble does not sell books. Sorry to tell you, Barnes & Noble orders, Books A Million is the third largest retailer in the US. They're in the Southeast, okay? Borders is on its last legs. We're going to see if B&N buys them or not. So I go into the Barnes & Noble here on the promenade. You know, do you have any books by Boritzer? You know, I don't tell them who I am, of course. I don't want to be rushed. So they're looking up. Yeah, we have a copy of What Is Love. We have a copy of What Is Death upstairs, children's section. All right, you go up there, children's section. I don't know if you have children or not, but you're not going to find that book, okay? The kids take the book out, they look at it, they throw it on the floor, it ends up underneath the shelf. You know, you're not going to find your book even if they've got it on the database. So not only that, you walk in there, and when was the last time you went into a Barnes & Noble and somebody said, "Good afternoon, ma'am. What are you looking for today? Can I help you?" No, they've all got their noses pierced and their tongues pierced, and that's all they care about, okay? So they're not going to help you that much, really. They are not there to sell books. That is not what we don't know what they're doing there exactly, but they're not there to sell books, is what I'm saying. So I'm trying to say that bookstores do not sell books. You know, the mom and pop bookstores, there's some that are still going, and they're going strong. You know, if they're specialty type of stores, they will still be going strong. But the chains, you know, it's just impossible. My books, if they're not in the store, they'll be on the database, and they'll order them for you. But I'm just saying, to depend on your publisher to sell the books, to depend on the bookstore to sell your book, to depend on the salesperson to sell your books is not going to work. All right? Whether you are, unless you're Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton, you know, then they're lined up around the block for you, or Harry Potter, et cetera. But there's only a few people who are doing that. So that's like a small percentage of the authors and the books that are out there. So you are going to have to understand that, and this is another one of my mantras, is that the creativity that you put into the manuscript is the same creativity, it's one Kundalini energy, creativity, that you're going to use to sell the books. And if you're not willing to sell the books, you know, that's not really what I do. I'm a very sensitive person. So I'm an artist, you know. I like to sell. It's the meaning.